Engineer Manriquez. This show is all about the business of construction.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are live from Austin, Texas. As you can tell from the boots, I got my Austin construction boots on. Welcome to the show. If you're watching on the live, we want to know where you're calling in from, where you're watching from, where your phone is, where your computer is, what device you're on, all those beautiful things. So let us know in the chat where you are, and I will eventually start to bring up, we'll show and share all those things. And as always with every live stream, if you've got questions, there will be a time for Q&A. But we've got a live studio audience here. Let's meet who's here in the audience. Yeah. We're going to start on the left side, by stage left, this way. We'll start with just brief introductions. I will show and share how it is. If you didn't know, if you got to this channel by accident, I'm talking to you people on Twitch. If you got here by accident, this does not be a video game. Watch me play video games. Keep browsing to another channel. But if you're here to talk about construction and Scrum, you're at the right place and you want to stick around. I am Felipe, engineer, author of Construction Scrum. We're going to go into some deep dive Scrum, and I've got in this live audience active people in the design and construction industry, including some owners and specialty trade partner people near and dear to my heart. Let's hear from them, who they are and what they do. I've got, just to spice it up, 20 plus years of experience in this industry, and half of that time using lean construction methods, agile methods, and these people know I love me some Scrum. They know it. All right, let's start with to my left first. Who are you, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm Jonathan Mouton, a project executive for DPR Construction here in Austin, focused mostly on healthcare work. Far as experience in the industry, a little over 23 years now. And my lean journey is probably only about 5 years old. Brand new to Scrum. We did some training this morning. It was great. Looking forward to implementing that.
I am too. And a little bit that you don't know, before we went live, I did challenge Jonathan that by the end of today, he may, optional, Stephen, he might give me a hug. So we'll find out. Let's see if that actually makes it to the final cut of the show. But somebody in here, if that happens, take pictures of Jonathan hugging me, because I will put that on LinkedIn later. So let's go. Thank you, Jonathan. That was freaking awesome. Let's go to our next panelist, discussionist person.
All right. Thank you. Yeah. My name is Stephen Pinshore, and I work for the City of Austin. I'm in the capital project delivery section. So we're really making a big push to try to reduce our project delivery time. And, I'm fairly new to Lean, and I'm really new to Scrum in the last couple of days, but really got a lot out of today's session, and really want to thank Eric and DPR for the great facilities and hosting this. It's really been helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you, Eric. We'll come to you in a second. But the cool thing is that we put Stephen and Kent together because the last time Stephen was at an LCI event, Kent was presenting, and that was 5 years ago. So you be the judge of how well Kent did at that time. And then I'm going to give the mic to Kent.
It's going to be a pretty quick topic, and we're going to cut you off here in about 2 minutes. Kent Hedges, large capital project manager with MedExcel. We're the planning, design, and construction arm of Ascension Healthcare, and really excited to bring you and your experience and knowledge to the Austin market. And so much going on around town, not just in healthcare where I live, but in just all sectors. And what we're going to talk about today, and what we've already talked about for the entire morning at Scrum, can be used everywhere, not just professionally, but personally. And that's what one of the great takeaways that I am going to do is to further bother my kids and use this so when's your next test? Okay, how are we planning for that? And that kind of thing. So thanks so much for coming out and being here today.
Yeah, thank you, Kent. And for those of you that stay up on the EBFC show blog, there is a middle school Scrum case study that you can tell if you got high schoolers. You can tell high schoolers that if a middle schooler can do it, they should be able to do it too. And the editor of my book, Bettina Detta, she's got a senior, graduated successfully. She helped him, just what she absorbed being the editor of my book, because we used Scrum to write the book, of course, taught her son Scrum. He used it reluctantly, but passed, and now the little birdie's flying out of the nest. So see, Bettina, I tell all the stories like you encouraged me to. Thank you so much. Now we're going to go to this side of the room over here, and we're going to start with the one, the only, Anna.
Hi, I'm Ana Martinez. I'm an assistant project manager for Beck, and I'm working at the Women's Tower with MedExcel. So hopefully we'll get to implement this further. He's not looking. Well, he's not our manager. So.
Ken's not there, but you're gonna use it. We're gonna even talk about some ways to use Scrum, what I call ninja Scrum or dirty Scrum. So there's ways to do it and infiltrate without 100% buy-in. Then we're gonna pass this over to the one, the only Aaron.
Aaron Stansel, Senior Project Manager with DPR, mainly healthcare construction. Been in the industry about 20 years, and I'm excited to implement this on my upcoming projects.
You can pass it to Joanna. They're already grown, people. They're grown. They're learning how to mic share. I love it.
I'm Joanna Estes with Field Verified, and we have been dedicated to Scrum now for a good solid year and had a nice year-long transition, and it's been working great for us, but I'm still learning new things about Scrum and how to implement it even better all the time.
Yeah.
And I am the aforementioned Eric Gribble from DPR Construction here in Austin. Very happy to host Felipe in the Scrum training here today. I am the healthcare core market leader here in Austin, and also the chair for LCI COP in Austin. So this is one of our events that we try to do every year, bring Felipe down. And as we were talking earlier today, there's some couple more opportunities, hopefully, to bring Felipe back with some other topics. So what we like to do here in Austin with Lean is try to raise the level of knowledge of everybody in town so that trade partners, GCs, owners, we all start talking the same language and maybe make these projects go a little smoother.
Yeah, thank you so much, Eric. Yeah, we like the tagline is easier, better, faster, cheaper. That's the way. So let's see, we've got some audience participation. Let's just show and share a couple people. Where are they calling in from? We've got the one, the only, the ex-Lady Gaga Aline, Jake Harrell. It's good to see you there. Oh my God, Betty is on an airplane currently over Atlanta. I love you got some killer good Wi-Fi. Betty, I want to know after the show what airline that is that can live stream LinkedIn on an airplane. So that's super cool. Then we've got, Jake says it's a Galaxy Z Fold 4. That's the phone that he's using to get in on. Then we've got my buddy, the one, the only Marcus Turner from Sun Prairie, Wisconsin, just outside of glorious Madison. And we've got Victor in Riverside, California. And we've got the one, the only RJ Miller. A little backstory on RJ. RJ was on the project where I first implemented Scrum, and the team resisted. RJ, you remember that resistance that the team gave me on that job? And we still finished that job 1 month ahead of schedule with no claims. So RJ, it's good to see you in beautiful Irvine. RJ didn't resist, by the way. In case you're wondering, was he a resistor? No, he was not. RJ was an early adopter. He also showed me the proper way to grill a cheeseburger that I still use to this day, because you just can't help that. And then we got Victor is in Martinsburg, West Virginia, in a job site. Welcome, Victor. And we've got, of course, registered Scrum Master George Hunt, who's also CM Lean and a PSP, and we don't hold the PSP against him. We don't hold that against him. He is a reformed F9 refugee who's adopted Lean ways. Oh my God, we got Hoots on the ground. Adam Hoots in Greenville, South Kakalaki. I love that. Hi, Adam. It's good to see you. And Jake and you got to talk. Where are you guys at? We've got in what I'm assuming is the Dallas-Fort Worth area, Armando, or as I like to call him, Mando 2.0, which he says is in the DF dub. For those of you in Texas who know what the DF dub is, Dallas-Fort Worth, I don't know what it is. Oh man, we got Richard. He's in St. Louis at Mellow Mushroom Pizza. Richard, it's so good to see you. Richard has a beautiful engineering company called Vestal Engineering, which utilizes Scrum in multiple different ways in multiple different countries, including the United States and Mexico. So good to see.
Shout out to Richard coming straight from the LCI COP National Conference in Dallas
There you go. Oh, we got to give the shout out. It's not going to pick up. Give him a shout out.
Shout out to Richard coming from the National COP Leader Meeting up in Dallas the other day. Richard, good to see you virtually.
Yeah, Richard, you had some big shoes to fill when I became emeritus of the St. Louis COP. You've done so well, Richard. Then we've got an anonymous LinkedIn user that's glad to see me again. We always love the anonymous users. Like, we love y'all. You got those super private settings. It's all good. People on LinkedIn can tell who it is. And we've got Chris all the way from New York. So good to see you, Chris. Glad to see you again. I think that anonymous LinkedIn user's in Ashley Colburn, Birmingham, Alabama. We've got Luis in Houston, Texas, baby. Texas represented. Oh my God, Joanna. We got the Melchorino here. You want to give a shout out to Brian?
Hey, Brian, thank you for logging in. Shout out to the whole team if they're watching from the office.
Yeah, the whole Field Verify team. I've been bragging on your team all day. We love us some Field Verify. A couple more. Oh, we got. I just want to show that RJ confirmed major resistance on that hard bid project, and it didn't deter me at all, as you all know. Let's see who else is here. We got. Oh, I'm sorry, Chris is in New Jersey. Sorry, Chris, I didn't mean to accidentally make you a New Yorker. You're in New Jersey. And we got Noel all the way from Nicaragua. Noel Ernesto Gomez Robleto. And Ritu all the way from Vancouver. We got Canada, South America represented. The independent country of Texas, of course, represented. So that's super cool. So thank you all for that. I'm just going to get a little banner going so that in case you all are wondering, you know, what is this thing you're watching? It's the EBFC show, the easier, better for construction podcast. And occasionally we live stream so that we can bring different topics to you. And if you got an idea for a future live stream or a topic, put it in the chat so that I will see it and we could come to your office and have a show. Or you can call in using other technology. Like the technology is there. So I want to come back to the live audience and hear some either takeaways of what we learned today in your own words. One of the things that I would love to hear is if you could tell people one more time the one thing you're going to do based on what happened today. Because for all of us that are working in design and construction, we've got tradition. We've got, some of us have policies, procedures, better practices. But the one thing we all have that sometimes we forget is autonomy. We have a lot of control that we don't always necessarily realize that we can use to affect change either with ourselves, our teams, or our companies. We all have that. So I'm going to put Eric on the spot first because he was in and out. He was quote unquote in and out, as Jonathan said. And we'll hear, you know, what's one thing Eric's going to do differently as a result of today.
Funny you should mention that, Felipe. I was actually scrumming out at the bar. I took some notes away from our national COP leaders meeting in Dallas, and I came back down and I create a 2023 Austin LCI COP events Trello board. I doing my 2023 events Trello board, and I am done with my 2023 events Trello board. Mic drop.
Mic drop. Just pass it.
Okay.
All right. So for me, the one big takeaway I had was that, again, with the autonomy thing, I wasn't fully utilizing my backlog. And we'd had some issues with some things getting dropped in our office. And I realized like I could be more active in using my backlog to make sure that I am getting everything out of all of the documents and the digital documents and making sure they're on the board and they're visible so that they don't get lost and then get done.
Here, I'll take that. So like throughout the session today, every time Erin thought I was coming to her, I would take the mic and jump over to this side of the room and surprise somebody. So why would I stop a good thing, Erin? I'm going to come back over here to this side of the room. We're going to come back. You're going to be on deck. I'm going to pick a random stranger over here, and I'm just going to turn and go with the person that I think is least ready or most ready. And I'm just kidding. I'm going to go to Steven first. Steven, what's one thing you're going to do differently?
You were choosing least ready for sure. I'll say, no, I'll say being somebody who's a little bit different. Yeah, thank you. I didn't learn the first time, did I? But being somebody that was a little bit different makeup here. I haven't been part of LCI these number of years here, but really the timing of this training here, Felipe, was perfect. I was telling Eric right before then that I had just talked to a mentor of mine who was recommending you need to learn more about Scrum, and I really had no idea. And then I get this email, this opportunity, and I'm like, oh, I'm in. So when did I register? Less than 4 days ago or something like that. This week, I think, right? So, but I come here today really with, some fundamental, maybe lean approaches that we've, some fundamentals of lean that we've used. And that's really my basic knowledge. Come in here with Scrum, and I'm leaving here today, knowing that I can start Monday morning and implement some of this, and sit down with my team and create this structure. And man, it's going to be a great journey. And it's one of the. I was talking to Kent about this earlier. Very seldom am I sitting in a training and halfway through, I'm really hankering to get back to the office and apply it. And here I am. This is what this is all about today. So thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I think, Eric, this is one of the first times I do this training and I don't give away cash prizes. And Steven still wanted to not leave and stay and bring stuff to bring back with him. So that was an experiment because I gave out a lot of cash prizes last night. But the first bank of Scrum is always open. So there might still be some cash prizes. I'm just saying, if it's cash prize worthy. Now I'm going to go back as promised. Thank you, Steven, to Aaron.
I haven't done Scrum before, so I'm excited to do it. The biggest takeaway I get from that is I've been in construction for a long time, had a lot of opportunity to burn out from a lot of work, and I see the opportunity to have be very productive and still have time in my day to take care of other stuff. So I'm excited about that journey and being able to implement the process.
That's beautiful. Yeah. And she said, and reducing stress. And I was sharing with Aaron, we used this Scrum board behind us in the course, LCI's Ready, Set, Go Scrum. And we were sharing like, why am I so fanatical about this? And I was like, for me, I've been there. I've had the burnout, the overwork, the long hours. It's taken a physical toll on my body that people that have watched the show, I've said the story 1,000 times, that made me just so involved with getting deeper into lean construction principles, and then giving back. One of my mentors, Jeff Sutherland, said, I always want to give it away for free and make it as available to the world as possible so that we can overcome the oppressive ways of working that so many of us are afflicted to. It's just, we work so hard and it's not always because we have, evil people above us. That's almost never the case. It's usually evil processes that lead us to work too much, do the wrong things at the wrong time, and suffer as a result of it. So I take that to heart. And I was telling Kent at the beginning, like, I'm prolific on social media because I never know who the algorithm's going to give that content to that needs it just that right time at that right day to set something loose, cut something free, like we did with Anna 4 years ago when she came to one of my Scrum trainings. So Anna, I'm giving it to you now.
So I think it's just that reminder that we can't assume that people know. Like, even though we're like, oh, I know the word, but if you have new people in the team, you have to make sure that they understand what the expectancy is and what done means, because my done might not be your done.
You got that right. Yeah, and when she gives the mic back to me, I know she's done. So that's a good visual indicator. She's like, I'm done talking. Or when Eric drops the mic on the table, and I appreciate you not dropping on the table, Eric. This is actually a very high quality microphone that we're broadcasting to you all with. So that's enough about the show. I'm going to give it back to the live audience a couple more times. And while we're sharing a little bit more, we're using lean in construction for better ways to enable work to happen. And here live, we got to experience it in a safe environment where people could be together. We slowed down. We started with figuring out who is here, what parts of the industry. I was pleasantly surprised to have 2 owners here, several general contractors, and a specialty contractor, field verified. It was a really good mix. And we even had 2 superintendents here that had to go superintend something, so they're not here right now. But Matt and Jack, they left their rep behind in Anna to represent them. And I think I busted Anna and Jack multiple times through the training, having some sidebar conversations that would have made Jennifer Lacey proud of what we were doing. But I would like if you could share an aha from Jack's perspective based on what you all were talking about. That would be awesome. Let's see if she could do it, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see if she can do it. Is she ready?
I think one of the first things we're going to try to implement first is reducing our overall meetings, because we have meetings that are like maybe an hour and a half long that has everyone in there that might not really need to be there. So that will be our first attempt. Let's see how that goes.
That's beautiful. Yeah. At the end of the training, we talked about, as we get super excited, and I've been guilty of this too, hand up first in construction. Like I've gone to a training that I stuck around for the whole thing, Stephen. I didn't try to get out of it. And then I'm thinking like, I want to come back with all this excitement. And this is what RJ, I'm glad RJ's on this live, saw me do with that first team. I was like over the top excited. Like I went to a hardware store on the weekend, built a Scrum board so that when I came into the office on Monday, it was ready to go. And people on my team just looked at me like, what is this guy doing? Like, what did you do this weekend? You came to work on a Sunday? I was like, yeah, I came to work on a Sunday. I was so excited. It did not encourage people at that time to want to do this. So we talked about the art of subtraction, and I'm so glad Anna and Jack heard that. And they're going to make meetings more effective to create time and space for people to play with and try something new, some small new experiment. That's a great way to start in construction, because we all have the day job and rarely do we get to work on the business, which is kind of ironic because that's one of the things that RJ and I used to talk about, after 5 o'clock at night when we were still at the trailer. When are we going to work on the business? We're always working in the business. And that was just a cool thing. So let me now give it back to this side, stage left, to Jonathan. What's one thing you're going to try, Jonathan?
I would say the biggest takeaway from this morning and thing to implement would be breaking things down to the sprint kind of 1 week durations, and then having that real feedback, that retrospective at the end of that period. We tend to do retrospectives, but they're usually after longer chunks of time or less frequently. And we lose the ability to micro adjust as we go along. So that's kind of the big one for me.
Yeah, that's a great reminder. And even where I'm working as a project delivery services director at the Bull Company, I'll often get brought in with the team to do a retrospective. And that's exactly what Jonathan's saying. Like we do it at the end of a big job. Sometimes we get lucky and it's at the end of a phase, or it could be from pre-construction to construction at a handoff point. But if we use Scrum, we can make that happen much more frequently. Like we talked about in some of the case study examples with design teams using retrospectives at least monthly. I've seen that very often, monthly, so we can focus on how we're working, what experiments can we do and change, what are we getting frustrated with, so we can stop doing those things. Those are really good Scrum easy buttons to hit to start. So if you're watching this and you're like, I don't know where to start, Felipe, start with what you think you can do with your team. And if you're like Jonathan's the big dog. He's got the boss power. He can just call a meeting and force people to show up, but he's going to do it with respect because right. That's right. And I'm going to go to Kent. Kent, what's one thing you're going to do differently?
We have a habit in our company of calling things sprints. And then that's the last we hear about it, is that, hey, for the next 2 weeks or 4 weeks, we're going to sprint on something. And then there's no follow-up. There's no, okay, well, let's check in at the end of the day or check in tomorrow, or following the process. That's the thing we don't do well. And so that's what I'm going to try to implement is, okay, guys, let's call this a sprint. Let's pick something, and we're going to do it for the next week. And let's see how that goes and see if we can get better at that.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm going to just turn back and just make sure, is there anything else that the live audience wants to add in that they didn't add in yet? Any shout outs you want to give? Anything you want to say hi to mom, or one more? We love you, Brian. I'm so glad Brian's watching. All right. Well, they think about that. They're not motioning like they're down. So just remember, we're gonna at some point I'm gonna put some Q&A from all of you watching live all across the planet Earth, but we're not there yet. So right now, I just want to remind everybody what you're watching and why. Why does this show exist?
The EBFC show exists to serve people in the construction industry.
It's that simple. So if you're a designer, an architect, an owner, a tradesperson, a foreman, a worker, a laborer, a ditch digger, doesn't matter if you're in our industry helping to build the built environment, this show is for you. And I super appreciate you taking time out of your day to be with us and ask. And just want to shout out my brothers from another mother, Michael from Dublin, Ireland. What's up? So good to see. We got people almost every continent. So that is super cool. I'm going to keep watching the comments, but now we're going to shift gears a little bit. And I want to show all the people watching at home how to get access to Construction Scrum so you can get there and start taking advantage of all these cool things. So in my bio link, and thank you, Michael. I'm going to take you off the stage for a second. In my bio link at thefelipe.bio.link, you will see a list of things to click on. And we're just going to click on the first thing because I want to give you free resources so you can start using Scrum like all of these people did today. And when you click on that bio link, we're going to just follow along here. The first one you want to click on is this one, Construction Scrum, which leads you to my book. Now, if you want to email me, hit this little envelope right here at the top. When you click on Construction Scrum, it'll bring you to this website here. This is the homepage. And there's the book, How to Deliver Projects Easier, Better, and Faster, forward by Dr. Jeff Sutherland. You can buy it now, get the audio companion PDF if you're listening to me on the audio. But I want to bring you towards these book links for a second. Every single resource in the book, in the printed book and in the Kindle version, is all here under this book links tab. So I want everyone to come here, and I recommend everybody always start with the Scrum Guide. The guide, like the scaffolding that holds up us to access the work. But I love Scrum so much. I want to welcome all the change makers to Scrum that I'm giving you access to my favorite parts of the book for free. You just got to put in your name and email address to get access to those. And once you do, this webpage will pop right up. And I do not spam. And I barely email people but once a month because I do have to have a day job, people, just not live streaming all day, right? I'm going to just pop open the PDF of the book so that you can see. And usually because I'm on a Surface, I was told today from Felix said, well, it's time for a new computer, Felipe. And I don't disagree. So it's going to work on your computers, the PDF download. There are ways around so you can save as that link and pop open the PDF, as well as getting the audio PDF. And it's the same deal for me. Sometimes computers get gun shy because we're on a live stream and Microsoft sometimes gets crazy and people know what I'm talking about. Everyone who's watching on a Mac, you don't have this problem. And typically I don't either. So those are just the ways that you can get access to the book for free. My favorite parts, of course. And I just wanted to show you all how to navigate there and get there. But I want to come back to the live audience and hit on a couple of different topics. So I've got the Scrum board behind me. Let me come and just show what happened here. We came together as a group, and in less time than it's taken me to show 2 dead web pages, we actually came up with a goal for our team this morning. And about how much time do you think it took us to come up with this goal?
5 seconds.
It took like 5 seconds. It was a little bit more than 5 seconds. Dale, you're giving Dalen way too much credit. Way too much credit. So Dalen helped to wordsmith the goal for us. And our goal for this team, it was here plus Matt, plus Jack, plus Aisa, who had to go to a interior design meeting. Aisa, shout out from the boardroom. We still miss you. Effective implementation of Scrum was our goal. So in Scrum, we use that goal to guide and filter what is on our board and what will go off our board and not be part of this issue, resolution, thing we want to accomplish, the goal. After that, I just put on this, this just says read Construction Scrum because Shameless plug. I love that book. It did take me time to write it, and I want to share it. So get it. Then when people came up and individually put up their tags, and rather than me tell you what they did, I'm going to give it to Joanna to tell how did we populate that board when we first started.
So we each, after Felipe went over the definition of what Scrum was, he gave us a Post-it note and asked us, what's one thing you want to learn from Scrum? And so we generated our Post-it notes by answering the question, what's one thing you want to learn? And then we put them all up on the board, and then we kind of categorized them.
Yeah. And that categorization only took, how long would you say? 2 minutes. So we had a goal, which you can see there, and I think I can zoom in with this camera. Let's try. There, now you can see it. So we'll zoom in. So Jonathan and Anna, just keep smiling because you're YouTube famous now. So you can see the goal and their stickies, and I'm not going to zoom in more to see the stickies, but you heard 5 seconds, give or take, plus a minute to make the goal as a team. Then you heard Joanna describe how we got the boards, and then throughout the day, we statused those tags. I don't know what this does to the camera, but I think that looks like we're out of focus now. So when we play with this camera, that's where it looks like in a glance, like it takes seconds to do, and it's really simple to do. And it is super simple to do. I tell people, like, sometimes it takes longer to explain it than to actually do it. So that's what we just want to showcase. And then from there, how do we make updates? I'm going to throw it to Kent and tell us how we made the updates throughout the day.
Well, we all agreed on kind of the cycle time. I'm going to use the wrong words, but how often we should get an update. And it, for our group is about every hour or so. And then we would move it to say, okay, if your objective as part of the goal was complete, or we were in the middle of discussing it, okay, we moved it further to the right. And so eventually throughout the day or throughout the morning, we got just about all of them moved over to the right, therefore satisfying our agreed upon goal.
Man, I could have said it better myself. That's really good. And then after that, we checked in at the end. We took a break to let everyone eat. And I let people know if you had anything open. They came up to the end. We did a mini review with some individual people that still had some open things to talk about. Or if people had to leave, first they apologized for not sticking around for a live stream, but apologies accepted. This is respect for people. And, some people, you got commitments, you got to hit those commitments. I completely understand. So that worked really well. And with the promise of email flurry, if there's questions in the future, because the whole point of this board is to allow us to have the right conversation at the right time and to let work flow. And we had people, you heard, we've got owners, specialty contractors, general contractors in the room. Everyone saw a way to make changes with their teams, and they also identified some things that they're not currently doing now. So on that topic, I would like to go to the live audience, and I just want you to think for a couple of seconds, like, what is a barrier to doing Scrum? Because in design and construction, people always say, we'll go to Joanna first. People always say, like, Felipe, yeah, you know how to do Scrum. Like, well, guess what, people? I wasn't born doing Scrum. I had to learn it. And then to be able to teach it to other people, that's a different thing. You can be a really good Scrum practitioner. It doesn't mean you're going to be a good Scrum trainer. Those two skills are not always exactly the same. And we even played a little game where Anna was the fastest. And I asked Kent, should we make Anna in charge of everybody? And he didn't even hesitate. He was like, hell no. She's not going to be in charge, right? But a lot of times in construction, we tend to put like the highest productive people in charge of other people without seeing, like, do they have the skills to actually coach, lead, and mentor other people? No puns against you or nothing negative against you. She is a great leader of people in construction. But I'm going to go to Joanna and just tell me, what's one thing that can be a barrier to implementing Scrum?
So this was kind of a theme among some of the people, that one of the biggest barriers they're having, and one of the barriers we had in the beginning, was buy-in from the team. So do you want me to elaborate on? Okay, so whether or not people just don't understand it at first, or if it's not fully explained. You just have people who don't want to participate or perform. And we went through this great coaching moment where someone was talking about a person who just didn't seem to have buy-in in the process. And a few of us were very quick to jump in and, it's probably because of this. But Felipe was asking, questions to kind of continue figuring out what the problem was, and just kept asking further questions. And it came down to, well, it might be because the person is dyslexic, that they're having difficulty with writing the Post-it notes out. And so instead of just assuming malintent, there could be a legit underlying reason why someone is having difficulty, and that comes across as not having good buy-in. And then some people just don't understand, and so they don't have any buy-in because they think the way they're doing it is better. So we talked about how having good group cohesion will help you with buy-in as well.
Yeah, thank you, Joanna. That was a good eye opener for me. I could not have predicted when we started that, and we had a couple people come with really good solutions. One of our partners here in the training today was thinking like, I've got this person, their knee jerk is like, I got to put them on a PIP, a performance improvement plan, and start coaching them to the door. But we found out through the questioning that maybe we didn't onboard enough, or we made some assumptions about what happened. And when you get curious, when people resist, I find it's often really a good thing to do is to get really curious about why are they resisting. But you can't be like leading the witness, and just asking questions that can only be answered one way. You've got to actually really get curious. And sometimes I play a little dumb. Ask my son how that works for him at home. It works pretty well. But I'm going to switch things up, Aaron, and I'm going to come to you next. So Aaron's been working as a project manager for quite some time now, and most of what we covered today was new. She said she's never done Scrum before. I'd love to hear from your perspective, from a new, fresh perspective on this. What do you think could be a barrier to implementing this with your team on a construction project? Or are you in pre-construction? I can't remember. In construction, yeah.
I'm kind of along the lines with her, the team buy-in, and then also people just thinking, oh, it's another thing to add on to my plate. It's another process, another thing I have to do. It's going to take up time, and thinking it's taking up time when in reality it's going to give you time.
Yeah, thank you, Aaron. And last night I was in Walnut Creek at another LCI event in Northern California. So I flew in all the way from Oakland, California, and gosh darn it, my arms are tired. Okay, there's the one dad fun of this hour, I promise. But what I wanted to say, why I'm bringing that up, exactly what Aaron's talking about. We had somebody in that room was like a high level last planner experienced person, and they said, how is this any different from just doing a good last planner? Why wouldn't you just do a good, and their question was, why wouldn't you just do a good last planner and not do this? And another friend of mine was at the table, Jennifer. I'll shout out to Jennifer. She noticed this and, talked to me afterwards. And I said, sometimes when we see something new, we get uncomfortable, and we might not even realize that we're uncomfortable. It's actually an unconscious bias. And I tell people, if we set it up right, when we onboard people, you want to hear those objections, hear those objections, and go deeper in. So, of course, because that's not the first time I've heard that objection, I said, well, Vic, it was Vic. I was like, well, Vic, I just so happen to have a video that addresses just that. And if you direct message me, because we're on that first cell phone, and I usually answer his calls right away, I sent him the video so he can watch and see in a longer, detailed, deep dive to handle that. But for a lot of other people, they can just use their imagination and see little things to start with. Like everyone here today said, they're definitely coming out of here and they're going to use it. But there are still barriers to have. So Anna said something earlier about dabbling in Scrum from 4 years ago, and I'd love if you could just elaborate. Are you a habitual scrummer, or are you a sometimes only on the weekends or holidays, type of scrummer? Can you just share a little bit about that?
So I'm an occasional scrummer. I'll confess. For the last 5 years, I'm an occasional scrummer. Whenever I get way too many to do stuff, I'm like, okay, I need to really plan this out. Like I normally do 3 goal a day. Like in general, I'll have my top 3 for the day. But if my manager calls me and like, hey, I need you to put out 7 subcontracts by the end of the week, and like, oh, I have a lot of stuff to do. So that's when I do, just to keep track of everything.
And it works for you?
It does.
So see that? Even I call that dirty scrum. Even using dirty scrum where she just uses it when she needs to, perfectly acceptable, perfectly okay. And that's a good way to get in. Now based on seeing this a second time and sitting next to Jack, and her and Jack's the superintendent, and they're working together, talking your ear off. Are you guys going to work together on something, or?
Yes, we're getting ready to start a 7-story hospital for Ascension Seton. So it's gonna. We're hoping, yes. As they say, hope is not a plan, but we're looking.
I got to take that mic away from her, because for people that know, you just heard uncommitted language, and that's okay. That's totally okay. Hope is not a plan, but she did not commit. So I know this is.
My intention is yes.
Okay.
But we have to get the rest of the people.
So that's a good thing. So she wants to do it, but she knows that she has other people to bring along, inspire, and bring on. So this is a good time for me to plug my free course. So of course, this is a countermeasure, because a lot of people often say like, well, I took the training with you. I understand it. I can do it. But what about the other people that weren't here? I just so happen to make, it's actually only 20 minutes. It's a 20-minute course that anybody can take at their own free time on their leisure to learn some of the basic things to start their individual Scrum and get access to the good things like the Scrum Guide. Plus they get to hear it from me, and I will help to influence them to help nudge your team just so gently. But only, as I told them in the training, I said, only share this with people that you care about. If there's people that you don't like that annoy you, do not tell them about this book. Do not tell them about this class. Do not invite them to LCI meetings. Okay, so use your discretion. I want to jump over here to Jonathan. Jonathan is leading multiple projects at a different time, and he's got a lot of responsibilities. And I would just like to hear, Jonathan, based on your experience, what do you see as a barrier for people implementing things like Last Planner System or Scrum or any other lean type of tool?
Yeah, I would say with Scrum, part of the resistance we may see is, there's a certain level of transparency involved and accountability that goes with it, that you're reporting on exactly what it is you're working on. I think that can be uncomfortable for some people, at least until they see the value in it. But I think once we get over that hump with the group, I think we'll be able to get it to stick.
Yeah, that's a true thing, that increase in transparency. If I get out of the way, and you can see that board, you can see we have only one tag left in to do. And as we went through a 4-hour session together, the vast majority, oh, not even vast majority, 50-50, half made it to done, then the other half didn't. Now, of course, some of the people left and they didn't update their tags, which is a problem sometimes in Scrum. And we talked about this in the course. We said, what do you do with people that don't update their tags every day? And so we covered some of those things. But Joanna, you had your hand up. You wanted to say something? And it went out of her just like that. Just like that. So she was ready. She threatened, and then she lost it. So I'm going to just keep going around. And Stephen works in a unique place where we talked about a lot of the work that Stephen's doing is initiative type of work, so small project work. And I always want to hear from your perspective, Stephen, what could be a barrier that you see with your teams?
Yeah, thank you. Certainly, I think it comes back down to the people aspect again, and I think really the buy-in, and primarily I think the trust that that the process is valuable, and I'm going to walk in there Monday, and try to start on this journey, and I won't be a great instructor of it, right? So, so people are going to wonder, like, how are we going to do this? But I'll tell you, I've learned that it's something that you can dive in and try to take a simpler kind of project or an initiative in this case, and with the resources you provided and with the help you provide, I think we can get people up to speed and get people buying in rather quickly, and I think the results will speak for themselves and it'll feed off itself. So that's what I'm hoping for. But it is that trust. It comes out of transparency and all kinds of things. But that's the first thing I'll probably try to work on Monday morning.
Yeah, thank you. Stephen brings up a good point. Like, sometimes we learn a lot of things, and you heard Kent say earlier that I'm probably going to say the wrong word. That type of honesty when you're implementing something new goes a really long way with your team. So if you're watching this, I highly recommend all of you go to implement these things, tell people, like, this is my first time. Like, I'm trying this the first time. Or even if you're an experienced Scrum practitioner, you might say, hey team, I know we're not doing this right now. Just, speak truth to power. Say, we're not doing this perfect. I'd like to try with you. Will you help me experiment? Let's try one thing. Maybe we decide, like, our team already has like a daily stand-up. Can we try walking the board or using some Scrum techniques in our daily stand-up to see if we can make it better, right? Oh, she remembers what she's going to say. So let's give it back to Joanna. She remembers. Go ahead.
Yeah. You triggered my memory there again. Sorry, sometimes they come and go, but you brought it back. The thing is that how do you make believers out of Scrum? One of the ways that Brian made believers out of us is we started tracking metrics, and you can do it too with things like track positives and negatives, late turnovers, missed items, rework dollars, like quality issues, constraints, and just track how many you have from week to week. And we were tracking, we attributed points to contract items. And we were tracking how many by division that we had. And then we started doing Scrum, and we just saw how our progress just went way up. Like our ability to do the work got so much better. And we have so many more points each week now that we've streamlined so many processes using Scrum, and it's just amazing. Just in my division alone, we had a 200% increase in deliverables over a 2-year period using Scrum. It was pretty amazing. So that the results make me a believer. So start tracking, try Scrum, and then the results will prove to the team that it works.
Yeah, thank you, Joanna. And then for people listening, like, she might have said that so fast that you didn't catch on what she said. So let me get up in your face. She said 200% faster, twice as fast, twice as much work, just with her group, what she was doing with her team. And then Brian has done some epic LinkedIn posting. So I highly recommend you follow Brian Melcher as well on Field Verified. He's talked about Scrum and he's putting out Scrum videos. Feels like it's almost every day now. Brian, you're making me up my game. I definitely filmed a TikTok in Austin yesterday, was Brian Melcher inspired. So let's give that shout out to Brian. I want to come back around. I want to open it to the live audience here, the participants. You are more than just an audience. You are all Scrum practitioners. What's some advice that you'd want to give to people watching at home that might have read Jeff's Red Book, but not implemented Scrum? Or something else? And I'm just going to look at each one of them to see who's ready to give some advice. Oh, Kent's ready. Go ahead, Kent.
I made the comment this morning that, I had read Jeff's book when it first came out, however long ago that was, and then put it on my bookshelf and didn't do anything with it. And so to me, it's a habit. To me, it's something that I've got to reinforce. I've got it one time. It's just kind of, okay, great. But no, now that I've seen it, I've talked to, and heard new stories from other practitioners, that goes a long way to help me internalize it and then really follow through with my own done process, right? And so then I can, when I show myself that if I believe it's stronger, then others will see that belief and would want to also, hey, just try this out with me. Let's work together on something. Okay. And then another one, and then another one, and then another, until we get the team not only starting to understand the basics of it, but then following through. And like you said, on capturing those metrics, we're very metric oriented. A lot of our companies are, and that's how you show value, supposedly. And it's not just, oh, that guy's a good guy, that she really knows what she's doing. No, we've got to show value in tangible ways. And like PPC is a great one, but that only shows part of the story. Whereas here, you can truly say, wow, okay, we had this many activities and we moved them through. So following through is really what my next goal is.
Yeah, that's great. And even myself, I'm an experienced Scrum Master and Scrum Trainer. And what I love about sessions like today is when people come in with some experience or no experience, just to hear like some of the things that people struggle with adopting something new. First, there's like some vocabulary. There's like these diagrams, these pictures, there's videos, right? There might be additional reading. I actually gave everybody homework to do. I just want to ask, like, who remembers what the homework is? Who remembers what the homework is? Download the book. That was one. Start practicing every day. Email me twice. See, they remember, like, there was a lot of homework. Some of them took notes, and then some of them did not. Right? So we know, but that's totally okay. Like when I first started, I tried to do everything all at once, and it didn't work. The first week, I realized I'm just in meetings all day. Like I charted it, and RJ remembers I created a little bar chart in Excel, and it was 95% of my week I was in meetings. I was getting nothing done. I was not useful or helpful to my team, always being in meetings. So in my second week, my experiment was to coordinate with people whether I should be at the meeting or not. And that created me some time and space to get better at practicing my Scrum, and then became way more effective, became Scrum deadly, as I say. So I want to just look back to my participants here in the live audience. This is your chance to give people at home some advice on what they could do to make their life easier, better, and faster, besides the obvious, which is you should Scrum your life. Go ahead, Joanna.
As a building envelope consultant, right, we're constantly invited to meetings to participate. If it had the word building envelope in the title, they would always invite us, whether or not we needed to be there or not. So one of the best gifts that was given to me was permission from Brian to not just attend random meetings just because I was invited, but to actually reach out to the project team and say, hey, the most important thing to us is to make sure that you're getting the value out of our relationship. And we want to make sure we're providing you value. And so we don't want to just sit in meetings where we aren't providing you any value. And so we now have those conversations with people on whether or not this is a meeting where we're adding value, or if it's just because it had the word building envelope in it. And so that has reduced my amount of meetings down from 50% to back down to a more manageable 20 to 30%.
That's a great example. And then in that story is Joanna sharing that she's having a conversation with leadership. In this case, it's Brian, which is super easy to talk to. But each one of us has a little bit of responsibility to have that conversation, that dialogue with our superior, and just ask the question like, hey, can we do something different here? Can we not go to a meeting just because it's got like part of our name in it, right? In their case, right? And this is the same thing. Like when I first had that approaching my team, that senior project manager is like, no, you need to be in every one of these meetings. And I had to like tell him like, listen, there was like a day I didn't speak for 8 hours. I got spoken at for 8 hours and I didn't add any value. Like that information I could get reading the meeting minutes in like 10 minutes rather than not doing anything. And it's worse to be in a meeting and you're doing other stuff on your computer. You're not engaged and you're multitasking. And we could just talk about multitasking for 10 days, but we won't. I'm going to say to everybody, just use your favorite search engine and look up the phrase loss due to multitasking, losses due to context switching, and you can see for yourself why you should not multitask. You want to trend towards one-piece flow or staying engaged and focused. Focused is one of those things that help to make high-performing teams. So now I want to go back to our lovely studio audience and ask, what's something that you're excited about as far as teamwork now? And it doesn't have to be Scrum. Like, you don't have to pander to me just because I got this glorious Scrum microphone in my hand. But what's something that you can see as a new potential for your teams? Let's see who's going to take it first. Oh, they're all thinking like teams. Like, is this a team sport? Like, is there anything to do with teams on this? Like, here we go. Oh, okay. Anna's going to speaking for a friend.
Because Jack is the owner of the pool planning boards over there. So he has 6 weeks. So he's already talking about taking 2 of them down and making them Scrum boards. So he's excited about that.
There you go. So we're having Scrum influence their last planner implementation, which I told people is always a dirty side effect. After you learn Scrum, typically what we see is last planner gets better. And there's a true story. I didn't share this earlier today when we were talking, but there was a case study I shared about Scrum. And on that team, the superintendent there, his name was Dan. They've been doing last planner system for almost a year by the time I got there. And he said, after learning what Scrum is, he said last planner finally made sense because they could see the flow and some of the parts and reasons. So like, I wonder how often we do things and we don't know why we're doing what we're doing. So slowing down and like taking a minute to like draw a couple diagrams or make a decision, or we talked about here, a lot of look ahead schedules look ahead way too far. And in construction, I've seen teams in Europe, South America, Asia, and especially here in the United States, the typical look ahead schedule duration is now 4 weeks, which is roughly a month. That's the more normal. But in 1990 something, when Last Planner came out, they recommended 8 weeks. And if those of my P6 scheduling nerds, or at that time, SureTrack and P3, an 8-week look ahead was just coincidentally one of the default reports that the software told you to use. And people don't realize that sometimes we let the robots tell us what to do and we don't even know why. Right? You just still got to definitely do some long-term procurement tracking, and I'm not against that. Like in Scrum, we do long-term and short-term tracking. So I appreciate that. So now I'm looking at the beautiful people online, and I've already gotten some direct messages from a couple of folks that sent me some great ideas for future live streams and future topics. Now I want to open it up to questions from the audience. Here, you got my complete and utter inability not to answer questions asked. As one of my mentors and friends at the Bull Company, Mr. Willichtig, said, if you want to hear Felipe talk, just ask him a question and he will answer it, even if he questionably doesn't know the answer. So let's test that. Joanna's going to ask me the first question.
All right. So one of the tools for Scrum is assigning a momentum number to all your task items. When you're self-scrumming, how do you keep from falling into the habit of just assigning a number based on how long it takes you to do the task?
That's a great question, Joanna. So Joanna's asking an advanced Scrum question related to velocity. Velocity is the term you're looking for, and I will always help to phone a friend. I'll be that phone a friend for you. She said momentum, and I knew what you meant. I get you, Joanna. I speak Joanna, Brian, just so you know. Remember that for the future, Brian, if you need my help. But velocity is a point system that we use in Scrum. It is not like PPC in Last Planner. It's close and it's a metric, but it is a proxy for measuring what the team actually finishes. That's why some of you are thinking, well, Felipe, it's just like PPC. It's not like PPC. It's a proxy for productivity. And what Joanna is referring to is like we will come together as a team typically, and as a group, we will break down tasks. Like I'll just pick a random task here from Kent, and he wanted to do a deeper dive into understanding how TACT and Scrum work together. So as a team, Joanna and myself, we're both registered Scrum Masters. We might have a conversation about what TACT is. We might have a side conversation about who Kent is, right? Because that's going to be a factor in what we have to teach him. We have to maybe ascertain what he knows, right? And we have to think, what kind of visuals could we use? How much effort is this going to take? How much time is this going to take? And then we need to anchor that against a known task that you and I agree on. And this is one of the things where people that do velocity and Scrum, they forget we have to anchor on an agreeable thing. And anchoring, I'm using that term anchoring on purpose because it's going to poison the well for the effort. So something Joanna and I both have done, Joanna and I both do constructability reviews. My time doing is much further away than her time. It's her every day. She loves it. It's her love affair. She loves telling designers where they have opportunities, right? So if you're looking at let's say an exterior wall assembly, maybe like it's the first, like a series of a certain type of window, and you're going to estimate how long will it take you to generate comments to send to the design team based on your experience with waterproofing. She's already nodding her head. She knows like roughly what time it is, how much effort it takes. And I'm just going to use a little bit of time just to anchor us down for purposes of today. I know what I would answer, right? She already held up she's like, it's a 2, right? It's a low point thing, right? And the fact that she put a 2 up is a low point thing. I know that it takes less than half a day. Could it be done in an hour without interruptions? So Joanna and I, the thing we have in common, I picked something that I know how to do. She knows how to do it. So we can agree, yes, that type of thing is a 2-point activity that can be done in somewhere between an hour to 3 hours. So there's a range of time. Now, based on that as being a 2, teaching Kent tack time, what would be your first knee-jerk reaction? What would be the point value? Her eyes just glazed up. So let me just demonstrate like what I saw. So let me come into the camera. Her eyes were like, they opened up just like that. She said 8. Now I'm gonna say, like, as a tact master trained by the one and only Jason Schroeder, for me, I would say it's about a 4 or a 5. But I want to hear from you. Why is it an 8?
I have not, even though he teaches his tact planning in our office in Arizona, I have not participated in that training. So I don't know very much about tact. And that lack of knowledge is an unknown. And so I usually attribute higher points to unknowns.
Right. And that's, a known unknown. So that's totally appropriate. So when you're doing velocity pointing, and she asked specifically for herself, you're never by yourself, Joanna. I'm always just a phone call or an IM away. Right. But we have to try to ascertain, like, what is this thing worth? So the first thing you want to do, and I noticed when I was answering the question, she started writing when I said anchoring to something that is known and agreed. Now Joanna's going to compare if that assembly is a 2 and that's worth here, teaching Kent tact that I don't know about is more effort, time, uncertainty. It should be a higher point value. That's how you do it. So pick something that you're very familiar with that's a low point value, typically a 3 if we're using the Fibonacci sequence of numbers. And my Agile Scrum coach online, Sudev, I'm sure Sudev knows what I'm talking about when I say Fibonacci. Right. For the rest of you that don't know, this is something you could Google. Jonathan's like, what's Fibonacci? Don't worry, Jonathan. It's in your body. It's already all over you. Yeah. It's the golden ratio. It's a numerical pattern of numbers, just counting ordinal numbers added together. So the sequence would be 0, 1, 1, 2, because 0 plus 1 is 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. 2 plus 1 is 3. 3 plus 2 is 5. 5 plus 3 is 8, and so on and so on and so on. Right. So it's a number sequence that goes exponential. So there's a lot of degrees of change. So if Joanna says that's a 25 and I say, no, it's a 13, like everyone in the room knows it's a high value, high effort, high time, but you can still see that a 25 is almost twice as much as a 13. So if I say a 13-point value activity could be done in a day, and we eventually agree that the teaching Kent is a 25, we know we're going to have multiple days with Kent. Right. Plus we got to prepare the training ahead of time, which is why it could be even a 3-day activity at a 25. Yeah. Or we scrum the training to figure out, so she can see why, as a tack master, why I think it's a 4, and we could get Kent doing Scrum on his next project in less than 60 minutes? It's a great question. So let's go to other questions in the audience. Oh, we got Jonathan Samuels on, a CSPO. So we got, and a CSM. I love it. People got all the acronyms. Jonathan, I've got lots of acronyms behind my name as well. So I love that. Those are all Scrum types of things that you can get for you to know. So people in the audience, are there any other questions you'd like to ask? Jonathan.
Do you have any advice? Earlier today, we had a little bit of a conversation about the actual type of Scrum board, whether it's a physical board with stickies versus the software. And if you have a mixed group of folks, some people may gravitate to one versus the other. Is there any advice to getting started and trying to get the folks that are not on board with the other format?
Yeah, so y'all get to watch me live figure out how to give a good coaching answer. So I'm going to have Anna and Aaron judge how well do I do in this before I jump to a solution. First, Jonathan, I'm going to acknowledge that I'm biased. So I'm going to tell you what my bias is. My bias is sticky notes. And this is why my bias is sticky notes. I don't have to teach people how to write down words. Typically, by the time I meet somebody, typically, not always, they know how to write. And so I don't have to teach that. So it's a low threshold to doing something like exposing your thinking, right? Then I'll have to make sure we got good practices. On our Scrum board here, we have some basics that we like for our tags. And in Scrum, we like, if we're tasking using our Scrum, we like action-oriented phrases, verb noun phrases. So that said, I also use Trello myself. And Trello, if you're listening, this is like the 35th time I've said, you don't sponsor my show, but gosh darn it, if you contacted me, Trello, I wouldn't say no to your money. Wouldn't say no. And the same goes to you, Mural. Mural, if you're out there listening, I gave you love on LinkedIn and I still love you. Okay. But I use digital solutions as well. It depends on the team. So I want to ask a follow-up question, Jonathan. Is this team, this fictitious team that you're thinking of, are they co-located or are they a mix of hybrid?
It would be a mix because you've got design teams. Sometimes they're remote from other parts of the country. You've got some of our management folks that are kind of on a hybrid deal where we're not in the job trailer every single day. And then of course you got the field folks that are there all the time. And the field guys, I think as you heard this morning, obviously there's the preference to the board, but as we're traveling around, obviously we don't have the board with us. So it's a mix.
Okay, so I'd say as a follow-on to that, like we heard, and Jack and Matt had some very strong opinions on how this should be, and they were like a definitive go, like ditch the digital tools, is what they said. But they, as superintendents, tend to be like building something tangible and physical, so they're there with the work and the people. Now, a possible solution, you mentioned it's a hybrid team. You might want to consider, notice I'm not forcibly telling him, you might want to consider a couple options, such as if the team comes together at least one time, that would be the time to onboard people with the sticky note process, just so they could get the reps of like how things should flow. And then you can say, we can either, hey team, we can take a picture of this and agree that once a week, we're going to share the update once a week. People can update this throughout the day on their own, but at least once a week, we're going to commemorate it and share a photo via something crazy like email or some other means. If, some teams actually use other tools like Slack or WhatsApp, right? Some teams use WhatsApp or a group text. I see some teams using group texts, right? And if the team is savvy, Jonathan, it depends on the team. If the majority of the team could use like a digital platform, like a Trello, a Jira, an Asana, there's over 50 different platforms to choose from. So be careful, don't go down that rabbit hole, but experiment and see like maybe it works. If it works for most, that's good enough to do as an experiment. And then you can see like, how do we get the other people that digital tool doesn't work for? What can we do to bridge the gap so that we still have the right conversations? The important thing is we have the right conversations. We can see the work and we can enable work to flow. This is all about talking and giving people the ability to make and see through commitments. The medium in which you do it is almost irrelevant. Almost. So I hope that helps. Cool. Anybody else in the room have any questions? And we'll also open it up to the the people online as the beautiful room people, the live studio audience thinks about, what do they want to know? I'm going to open it up to all of you in the chat, and you can ask questions live of me as well, and I will look to see and answer questions that you have in the chat. So RJ, you should definitely ask a question. Armando's already gone, so he can't ask anything. He left. He was here for a second, but Kent's got a question.
As you're working with new teams, is there a point of inflection where you really can see the momentum start to turn? And it may, I don't know if it's like within a week, within a couple of months, that, okay, the team is at least being diligent. They're following through. They're using the process, the steps. But when do you really see it take off, if you can even quantify that?
Oh my God, it's like Kent knows I'm a walking encyclopedia of case studies. That's a freaking great question. So I'll give you the two extremes, Kent. So in the one extreme, in the training today, we showcased my buddy from the cold north, Island. Island is an architect. She went from 0 to Scrum Hero in 2 days. She currently holds the record in the speed to which implement full Scrum with her team. We can't say it was 48 hours because the last day of learning was Friday, and she implemented with her team on Monday. So technically, it's 36 hours. It took 3 days, technically. 3 days is the fastest. And she said from day one, we were way more productive. And I said, how much more productive were you? Because, I want to know. She's like, we were a new team, but we just crushed through whatever learning curve typical. She's like, I can't definitively say how much faster we are, but we are exponentially faster, which in my ear is at least twice as fast. So at least 2 times faster in 3 days. That's the record holder. There are other teams, like the other example I showed, my pre-construction team, which is the first construction Scrum case study. They took a little bit longer. They were individually using Scrum for a series of months. Then they came together, and it was about 6 months. By the time you see the video that we shared, which is in the book, and everybody watching this live stream, go back to see how to access the Construction Scrum book links. That's where you can find that case study and watch the video that I'm referencing. That took them about 6 months to get there, where they first doubled their throughput. And it was like magic. Like, we could just feel it. And I remember probably about 7 or 8 months in, people on the team came to me and said, can we just leave early if we're done with our work? And I was like, you don't work for me. I was like, but I know who your boss is, Jason. And Jason's like, I don't know if Jason's going to be cool with that. I was like, you should talk to Jason, make sure he's cool with it. And they did. And he was. So it was awesome. So that can happen. That team took a little bit longer, but you see their implementation is insane. They went 3x on their work, which is crazy. So some teams take a little bit longer than others, but you will noticeably see it. And it's usually, for a lot of the other teams, like at Field Verified, maybe Joanna could share what she saw as a hybrid person from the outside. When did you see, notice the team was working faster? I'll let her tell us.
So I'd say it was probably about 6 months ago. And that was after we had put about half of our team through your training. And then there was it was like that point where the momentum started to carry it on its own. Everybody knew the lingo and knew what was expected of them. And we weren't needing to prompt them to fill out stickies and stuff like that. As soon as a client came and said, hey, I need something, they would fill out the sticky on their own, snap a picture of it to our WhatsApp and put it on the board. So that alone, when we hit that step, and granted, you have new people coming on and stuff like that who are still always having to build up to that momentum. But when I'd say about 2/3 of our team was at the self perpetuating Scrum, we just went through the roof in production rate. And now, really the only thing holding us back is how long it takes to get places because we are so agile in our ability to handle whatever a client needs. Everybody's cross-trained on everything. They're constantly being trained on new things. Brian is like the king of training now. And so there's no wasted effort, right? Instead of somebody having to train somebody over and over and over again, we videotape it. And so if you need to learn something, we have a video for that. If you need to do a specific test, we have a video for that. So everyone can just go to the resources, learn how to do something, and be able to be super flexible. So it was that 2/3 mark.
Yeah, that 2/3 is on the team of roughly 25. But what I liked from that is that Joanna said Brian's the king of training now. So that was pretty cool to hear. So I want to just look back. We've got nothing in the audience but love for all the people watching this live. Super appreciate each and every one of you with the questions, and people definitely stuck in there for the full time. We're going to bring it to a close. I'm going to give last words to each one of you before we sign off. You can say whatever you want, even the F words, should you so choose. I will edit it out and do the bleepity bleep on you. But I'm just going to go around. We're just going to pass the mic and close this down, take us one after the other. And then I'm going to answer any questions in the chat before we sign off.
I just want to say that this was awesome, and I'm thankful that I was able to be here, because even though we've already implemented Scrum and feel like we're going really well, I was able to learn new things today and hear, where other people have opportunities.
I thought we would end up going over there. No, this was a great training. I'm really excited to get into this and get going, and I'm thankful to hear from various backgrounds too and see how it can be implemented in different ways through different processes.
So it was a nice refresher, and hopefully I'll stop being a dirty Scrum. We're working on that.
Ain't nothing wrong with the dirty Scrum.
Just one of the comments that was made, and I'm going to steal it, was just get started, right? Do something, even if it's just a little piece. And so I'm excited to start. I think this weekend I'm going to do kind of my personal Scrum board for things around the house and all that. And that'll be like training wheels, get going. So excited about it.
Yeah, likewise. I really just floored by the value of it, and, excited obviously to bring it back to the workplace. I talked about, us, the city of Boston, really starting to make a major push to reduce our delivery time for our capital projects. Just scratching the surface. In my small world, I get a chance to use this and make a little impact, and hopefully this can propagate and help us in bigger ways, and take it back to my own busy personal life with family and kids and all the things there. I think it'll help me in every aspect of my life. Yeah.
Oh, once again, on behalf of the Austin LCI COP, thank you so much for coming down, and thank you to the rest of you for joining us today. It's been a very fruitful day. I do want to put a shout out to Ripple Intent. We do have an event next Friday morning. It's at the MedExcel offices over on Crawford Street, and looking forward to having folks come and visit. But once again, Felipe, thank you so much. I've learned a ton. I look forward to hearing great stories from you guys around town as we start this journey together and reinforce it as we go. And as our friend Jason would say, on we go.
That's right. And as Jason says in Germany, auf geht's, which is on we go in German. So everybody, thank you for tuning in. Kurt, it's nice to see you. And if you have any questions that we didn't answer, hit me up on social media and I will video answer that response back to you with a TikTok. We are so glad to have had all of you. And man, I just appreciate you all so much. I just got to give you the play out music, which I love. Goodbye.
Very special thanks to my guest. I'm Felipe Engineer Manriquez. The EBFC show is created by Felipe and produced by a passion to build easier and better. Thanks for listening. Stay safe, everybody. Let's go build.